From the first time I saw the QQ Extra, I knew I had to have one. The QQ Extra is not just another foamy. The more I look around in this plane, the more I'm finding some really thoughtful design and manufacturing points. It's getting more and more apparent to me that Flex Innovations is intent on creating better aircraft and not saving money doing it. I kept finding things that I really liked about this plane, so I couldn't wait to get it to the field. Flex Innovations included wheel pants with this model, but they're easily removed if you fly off of grass or an unimproved field. All you need to do to remove the wheel pants is to take 2 screws out of this little bracket and the wheel pants will slide off of the wire gear. They even include a couple wheel collars for mounting the wheels when you're not using the wheel pants. The wheels that come with the QQ Extra work very well on the grass, but on all of the lighter planes like this one, I put these Dubro wheels on. I just like this 3-inch diameter in the grass. The QQ Yak comes with a Flex Innovations Potenza 10-size brushless outrunner motor. This motor surprised me in how well it pulls this plane around and how easy it is on the battery. I've been getting 5-minute 30-second flights out of the QQ Extra without babying the throttle. Look at a nicely made motor mount that's attached to a real firewall. I've had too many foamies where the motor loosened up because the foam started giving away behind it. This is where the battery goes, but you can see the structure inside that's supporting that firewall. This light ply assembly is built into the airplane and runs all the way back to the main spar. I'm not expecting this motor to start shaking anytime soon. Carbon fiber tubes support the main wing and, as we see here, the horizontal stabilizer as well. The kit includes 4 strips of clear tape that's reused for securing the horizontal stabilizer to the fuselage. Considering the carbon spire and the internal structure, this is all we need to secure the horizontal stabilizers. This is the night vision of the QQ Extra, so it comes with LED strips built into both wing tips and along the leading edges. The foam wing tips do cover up these LEDs out there, but that just disperses the glow from inside of the wing. Here's a little better look at what they'd look like at night. It doesn't look like seeing a QQ Extra is going to be a big problem at night. I used one Spectrum satellite receiver plugged into the Aura box for control, and that got me to do a really big range check before we flew this thing. And the range check worked perfect, way beyond the 30 steps. This will be the Maiden Takeoff, and while we didn't have a whole lot of wind on the ground, we find out that it was kind of bumpy up about 80 to 100 feet. The QQ Edge needed a few clicks of down and a few clicks of right to get it trimmed out. After that, it flew pretty well. I did notice several times that the upwind wing wanted to get lifted in the gusts up there. I pulled the throttle back to see how slow the QQ Extra had to go before it stalled. With a little bit of a headwind, it just doesn't want to stall. And I was finding that it only took a little squirt of power to get the QQ Extra back in the air. It really doesn't seem to have any low-speed handling problems. The QQ Extra likes rudder input and handles that very well. I normally use quite a bit of rudder when I take off to turn the plane back down the field, and the QQ Extra liked that just fine. It doesn't slow down when you push the rudder in, and it doesn't tuck a wing under, it just flies away normally. As I always do with a new airplane, I did a bunch of approaches and touch and goes, and found out that the QQ Extra has to be almost coaxed to the ground. And here's the first actual landing. It goes a little long because, again, the QQ Extra just keeps wanting to fly. Overall, the QQ Extra is a puppy on takeoff and landing. The only possible issue is that this plane's liable to land at a lot slower speed than what you're flying right now, and that takes a little getting used to. The good news is that the QQ Extra is very forgiving. That not wanting to quit flying thing gets in the way when you're trying to do stuff like elevators. QQ Yak does elevators very well, but it loses so little altitude it's liable to be flying by you before it actually gets down where you thought it would be. And you don't have to be afraid of throwing the QQ Extra around a little bit in the air. This is the start of day 2 with the QQ Extra, and it's already starting to grow on me. I'm quickly learning that there's no point in waiting for the QQ Extra to do something wrong, because it probably isn't gonna. But it will do just about anything you know how to tell it to. You will want to spend a little time practicing approaches and landings with the QQ Extra, but not for the reasons you might think. The QQ Extra doesn't need a whole bunch of wind going over the wings for it to continue flying. If you have any headwind at all, you might have to coax this thing down to the ground a little bit. There's just no reason outside of you making a great big mistake for this plane to have a hard landing. I have the CG set per the instructions, and here I put it on a 45 upline, flip it inverted, and let go of the sticks, and it's got very little sink to it. I'll probably move the battery back just a little bit to see if that changes the handling, but right now I can't find anything this is doing wrong. The QQ Extra does flat spins that are almost lazy looking because you don't need a bunch of motor to keep them going. And when you're ready, it pulls right out of them. And inverted flat spins are pretty much the same thing. And getting out of the spin is just as easy inverted as it is right side up. Here the OR8 is in mode 2 where it just smooths the plane out. What I like is that it lets the nose drop as you lose speed like you would without the Aura on at all. Throughout the landing you're flying the plane as you would normally, but the OR8 just makes it a lot smoother. Inverted flight with the QQ Extra is surprisingly easy and needs very little down elevator to hold altitude. This is around half throttle, maybe a little bit less, and it's just as stable as can be. Knife edge flight is also just about effortless. In doing this knife edge figure 8, we'd be going upwind and downwind, and there's hardly any difference in how you fly the plane. There's also no coupling that I can tell in either direction. Like everything else, the QQ Extra does knife edge flight very easily. If you've been thinking about getting a foamy and you want one that's aerobatic and just fun to fly, you need to look at the QQ Extra. This plane has no bad habits that I can find, and it's just fun to fly no matter what you're doing. The QQ Extra and the Aura 8 system both like it when you use a bunch of rudder, and there's just not a lot of planes that you can say that about.